Picture this. It's morning. You're jogging in the park to clear your head, and instead, you get a lunatic with a massive dog who seems to think you're its breakfast. He thought it was just a joke, and I was a nobody. But messing with someone silent is one thing. Picking a fight with someone ready to push back is a whole different story. That's where it all began. My name's Jerome, and I'm 34. I'm just your average guy trying to keep my life together. You know, working hard, dreaming big, and staying out of trouble. Most mornings I go for a run in this upscale park near the edge of the city. It's got these fancy gardens, a fountain straight out of a millionaire's backyard, and enough fresh air to remind you that life isn't all bad. But let me tell you, this particular morning, it felt like life had other plans. So, there I was, jogging along, headphones in, minding my own business. The sky was doing its thing, all orange and pink, birds chirping like it was their job. For once, I thought the universe was cutting me some slack. That's when I spotted him. A tall guy in an expensive suit stepping out of a shiny car parked by the gates. You know the type. The I own everything you see vibe practically oozing off him. He had this massive dog on a leash. And by dog, I mean a beast. A Doberman that looked like it spent its weekends lifting weights. But hey, I didn't pay him much attention. Rich people and their oversized pets aren't exactly new around here. I just kept running, thinking about breakfast or whatever when I heard it. Hey, you! Yeah, you! I stopped mid-stride, pulling out one of my earbuds. Maybe he was talking to someone else? Nope. The guy was staring right at me like I'd just crashed his garden party. Can I help you? I asked, trying to keep it cool. He tilted his head, smirking like he had something clever to say. What are you doing here? Okay, now I was confused. What do you mean? I'm jogging, like everyone else? His smirk grew wider, but it wasn't friendly. Everyone else doesn't look like you. Oh, I get it now. One of those conversations. You'd think we left that kind of stuff behind, but nope. It's still hanging around, like an old stain that won't come out. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool. Look, man, I'm just here for a run. If you've got a problem with that... Problem? He cut me off, his tone sharp. Yeah, I've got a problem. People like you don't belong here. And just like that, things went from awkward to straight-up ridiculous. I glanced at the dog. It was staring at me like it couldn't wait to join the conversation, in the worst way possible. People like me? Okay, buddy. Whatever that means, I'm just gonna go. But he wasn't done. He crouched down, unhooking the dog's leash with this smug little grin on his face. Let's see if you can run fast enough to stay in this park. Before I could even process what was happening, the Doberman charged. This wasn't some playful game of fetch. This was full-on attack mode. I barely had time to react. My legs moved before my brain did, and I sprinted toward a nearby bench, my heart pounding like a drum solo. Behind me, I could hear the dog's claws scraping against the pavement, its growls growing louder. I grabbed the first thing I could find, a broken tree branch, and turned just in time to block its leap. The impact nearly knocked me over, but I held my ground, using the branch to keep the dog at bay. It snapped its jaws inches from my face, and let me tell you, that's not something you ever want to see up close. Call off your dog, I shouted, trying to keep the panic out of my voice. But the guy? He just stood there, arms crossed, watching like this was some kind of reality show. Not so tough now, are you? My grip on the branch tightened as the dog lunged again. I managed to push it back just far enough to scramble onto the bench. From there, I waved the branch, yelling like a madman. Is this fun for you, seriously? Eventually, the Doberman hesitated, probably wondering if I was worth the effort. I wasn't about to wait for round two. As soon as the dog backed off, I jumped down, keeping the bench between us as I slowly backed away. The guy laughed, shaking his head. Next time, pick a park where you're welcome. I didn't say a word. What was the point? People like him don't listen. I turned and walked away, my hands shaking with a mix of fear and rage. That morning, I learned two things. First, never trust a guy with a tailored suit and a Doberman. And second, Staying quiet doesn't always keep you safe. Sometimes it just makes people think they can get away with anything. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Okay, so here's the thing. I thought that morning would just end with me nursing a few scratches and calling it a day. But no, life had other plans. Turns out, getting chased by a Doberman wasn't the grand finale. It was just the opening act. When I got home, I threw my keys on the counter and sat down, still shaking from the whole ordeal. My roommate Marcus, who, by the way, never misses an opportunity to roast me, took one look and raised an eyebrow. Yo, Jerome, you look like you ran a marathon through a war zone. What happened? Did a squirrel beat you up? I shot him a look, then pointed at the torn sleeve of my jacket. Close. Try guy with a killer dog and an attitude problem. Marcus dropped his game controller, clearly interested now. Wait, what? Start talking, man. This sounds like a story. So I told him everything. The rich guy, the dog, the ridiculous attempt at intimidation. Marcus listened, his expression shifting from amused to downright furious. Hold up. He actually sicked his dog on you? For jogging? Dude, that's messed up. You've got to do something about this. And here's where it got tricky. See, Marcus is the kind of guy who thinks everything is solvable with a viral post and some community outrage. Me? I wasn't so sure. But after some convincing, and by convincing I mean he wouldn't shut up about it, I wrote a post about what happened and shared it. I didn't expect much, maybe a few likes and some comments about how terrible people can be. What I got instead? Explosive. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. People were sharing it, commenting, tagging others. Some folks were furious on my behalf, while others were all, "That's what you get for jogging in rich people territory. Thanks for the support, internet." A few hours later, Marcus barged into the living room, waving his phone. "Jerome, you're not going to believe this. Someone just uploaded a video of the whole thing. You're officially internet famous." I snatched his phone and watched the footage. Sure enough, there I was, wielding that tree branch like my life depended on it. Because, let's be real, it did. The video caught everything. The guy unhooking his dog, the chase, the whole drama. My first thought? Great, now the world gets to see me almost eaten alive. Marcus was hyped. This is gold, man. People are already talking about holding a protest or something. You've got momentum. But here's the catch. Not everyone was on my side. A few hours after the video went viral, I got a call from my boss. Not the friendly kind of call either. "Jerome, we need to talk, now." I headed to the school where I work as a security guard, trying to stay calm. When I walked into the office, my boss looked like he'd been hit by a freight train. "Jerome, do you have any idea what kind of trouble this has stirred up? That man, Mr. Rivers, is threatening legal action. He's claiming you provoked him and endangered his safety." I blinked, trying to process that. Wait, what? Provoked him? The guy unleashed a Doberman on me. How is that my fault? "He's a powerful man, Jerome," my boss said, rubbing his temples. "And powerful people don't like being called out. I just need to know, is there more to this story? Anything that could make this worse?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "No, there's nothing more to it. I was just jogging. How is this even a question?" My boss sighed. "Look, I'm on your side, but you need to be careful. This could escalate." Oh, it was already escalating. By the time I left the office, news outlets were picking up the story. Headlines like, "Millionaire's dog attack sparks outrage," and "Jogger accused of trespassing by local tycoon" were popping up everywhere. I got home to find Marcus glued to his laptop. "Jerome, check this out. People are digging into this guy's past. Turns out he's got a history of incidents. A lot of people have stories about him being a complete, let's just say jerk. This could actually turn into something." "Yeah, like a full-blown disaster," I muttered, slumping onto the couch. "This guy isn't just rich. He's got lawyers, connections, everything. What am I supposed to do? Fight him with my grocery budget?" Marcus grinned. "Nah, man. You fight him with the truth. and maybe a little help from your community. Sure enough, later that evening, people from the neighborhood started reaching out. Some offered to help cover legal fees if it came to that. Others shared their own stories about dealing with entitled rich folks. One lady even dropped off a homemade pie because, and I quote, "Every revolution needs snacks." It was overwhelming, but also kind of empowering. For the first time, I felt like I wasn't alone in this. But as much as I appreciated the support, I couldn't shake the feeling that things were about to get a lot messier. Because let's face it, guys like Mr. Rivers don't go down without a fight. And judging by the way he smirked as I walked away that morning, I knew this wasn't over. Not even close. By now, the whole city was buzzing about what went down. My story had turned into this wildfire, spreading faster than I could keep up. People were calling me a hero, while others, mostly fans of Mr. Rivers' money, were calling me a troublemaker. Either way, it was clear this wasn't blowing over anytime soon. The morning after my post went viral, I got a call from someone I didn't expect. My neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins. She's this sweet old lady who bakes cookies for every holiday and calls me young man, no matter how many times I tell her my name. "Jerome, dear, you won't believe this," she said, her voice shaking with a mix of excitement and nerves. "I've been watching the news and they just aired a segment on you and that awful Mr. Rivers. They showed the video and everything." I thanked her for the heads up, hung up, and immediately searched for the clip. Sure enough, there it was. The footage of me dodging that Doberman like I was in an action movie. The news anchor's voice was all serious, talking about questions of accountability and the dangers of unchecked privilege. It felt surreal. One minute I'm just a guy jogging in a park, and the next, I'm at the center of some huge social debate. But here's the thing. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about people like Mr. Rivers thinking they could do whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted, with no consequences. The next big twist came later that afternoon. Marcus burst into the living room, practically tripping over himself. "Jerome, you're not gonna believe this. Someone dug up dirt on Rivers. And dude, it's bad." I raised an eyebrow. "Bad how?" Marcus pulled up an article on his phone. Apparently this isn't his first rodeo. There's a whole thread of people sharing stories about him. He's had complaints filed against him for harassment, intimidation, even some shady business deals. This guy's been skating by for years. I stared at the screen, my mind racing. If all this was true, then maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as powerless as I thought. But of course, Mr. Rivers wasn't about to roll over. That same evening, I got served with a notice. He was suing me for defamation. Classic rich guy move, right? I couldn't believe it. Marcus, ever the optimist, just grinned. "This is good." "Good? How is this good?" I shot back, waving the papers in his face. "This guy's got lawyers who probably bill more in an hour than I make in a month." "Yeah, but now he's on the defensive," Marcus said. "He's trying to scare you because he knows the truth is out there. You just need to hit back harder." Easier said than done? But luckily, I wasn't fighting this battle alone. By the end of the week, the community had rallied in a way I never expected. People were organizing fundraisers to help cover my legal fees. Local activists were calling for an investigation into Mr. Rivers' history. Even Mrs. Jenkins got involved, handing out flyers that read, "Stand with Jerome." The real turning point came during a rally outside Mr. Rivers' estate. Hundreds of people showed up, holding signs and chanting. The energy was electric. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about standing up to people like him. And then, like something out of a movie, a woman stepped forward from the crowd. She looked nervous but determined, holding a folder stuffed with documents. "My name is Sarah," she said, her voice shaking. "Mr. Rivers harassed my brother last year. He tried to report it, but no one listened because Rivers threatened to ruin his career. I have proof." The crowd went silent. All eyes were on her as she handed the folder to one of the rally organizers. Inside were emails, letters, enough evidence to make even Rivers squirm. The media pounced on the story like a pack of wolves. Within days, more people came forward, sharing their own encounters with Rivers. It was like a dam had burst, and the truth was finally flooding out. Meanwhile, my court date was looming. I won't lie, I was terrified. But when the day finally came, I walked into that courtroom with my head held high. I had my community behind me, and I knew the truth was on my side. Rivers' lawyers tried every trick in the book, painting me as some kind of troublemaker who was out to ruin his reputation. But the evidence was overwhelming. The video, the testimonies, Sarah's documents. It all painted a clear picture of who Rivers really was. When it was my turn to speak, I kept it simple. I didn't ask for any of this. I was just a guy going for a run. But when someone tries to use their power to intimidate you, you can't stay silent. You have to stand up, not just for yourself, but for everyone who's been in your shoes. The verdict came down later that day. I won. Rivers was ordered to pay damages and issue a public apology. The courtroom erupted in cheers, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. But the best part? Seeing Rivers' face as he walked out, knowing his untouchable image was shattered. Justice might not always come quickly, but when it does, it's worth every moment of the fight. As for me, I went back to that park a few days later. This time, I wasn't alone. A group of us jogged together, laughing, talking, reclaiming the space. Because that's what this was really about. Showing that no one has the right to take away your place in the world. How would you have handled this situation? Do you think Jerome made the right choices? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you or someone you know ever faced anything similar? Don't forget to like this story if it resonated with you, and let's keep the conversation going. This story was created to shed light on real issues and inspire positive change in the world. Your opinion matters, and together we can make a difference by addressing these problems and creating a better, more just society.